My name is Data. I'm an independent game developer in Colorado, and welcome to the Data Log, episode 1. It's nice to meet you. Leave a comment. Tell me what games you enjoy playing, and what about it do you enjoy? I'd love to hear your opinions on that. Give me a thumbs up or down if you like or hated the video. It helps me improve my videos in the future. And smack that subscribe button. It's dumb, but it does help me out. I've wanted to design games longer than I can remember. I mean, if we're talking about games that inspired me, truly inspired me, I think of games like Legend of Zelda and the whole, evolution line from the fantasy genre as it entered 3D. I grew up in a really cool time for gaming, when gaming was transitioning from 2D to 3D. Or at least I think it's cool. So not only were we seeing a lot of new design principles in the way we developed video games, we also saw a lot of innovation in the way we play video games. We moved away from traditional pads and we started using joysticks. And believe it or not, that right joystick did not always control the camera. I also grew up in a time when the gaming industry wasn't as widely recognized. And in order to go to school to develop video games, you would have to become a software engineer. I took advantage of new educational programs my entire schooling career, going back to at least high school. My sophomore year of college, my father killed himself. I began a long battle with my mental health. Do I miss my old Team 4th Axis? Yeah. Did I want to get a job in the game industry right after college? Yeah. But life had other plans. My brain went absolutely Looney Tunes. I thought I could control the weather. I thought I could summon lightning. I thought I had telekinesis. I thought, I was hearing things. I was seeing things. I don't know what was going on. And then there were other times where it was totally normal. Everything was clear. I wasn't crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we ultimately decided it was bipolar mixed with the grief of my father's suicide. The doc gave me some battery pills, and I've been feeling fine ever since. I also have high-functioning autism, so maybe that played a role in it somewhat. Could be my retard brain. I don't know. With all that nonsense going on, I clearly couldn't make a full game. Nor should you turn around and just create a full game project. You're going to have so many issues down the pipe if you don't plan out your game properly. I mean, granted, if you're making a simple game project, you probably don't have to be as thorough, but I wanted to build a project that would challenge me, and there was a lot of principles that I needed to learn that weren't taught in school. I'm sure, obviously, you would learn this within the field, but I don't really have that luxury, as I'm sure a lot of people don't. So I spent my time mapping out a few game projects that I might be interested in completing. I got further on some than others, but I definitely wanted to make at least 4. My main objective wasn't to complete the games. A lot of my programming knowledge was taught through a 2D perspective, so 3D programming was a large hurdle for me. I don't claim to know everything, but I definitely try to be a jack of all trades in my field. So welcome to my YouTube channel. I plan to release monthly updates, and I hope you join me on my adventure to create my dream game. So for me personally, I really enjoy role-playing games. It doesn't really matter what kind of role-playing game it is. Pokemon, Fable, Skyrim, any of the Souls games. Monster Hunter, you name it. I probably enjoy it to some regard. Here's the problem. RPGs are incredibly mechanically complex games. Just in terms of the RPG elements. Let's forget everything else. So how does one person sit down and make their dream RPG? This is not a tutorial series. If anything, I want to explain more of the design principles. So the big thing in an RPG is the story. You can't play a role if you don't have roles to fill. And oftentimes, when you are playing a role-playing game, you are placed as the hero, or the savior, or some grand adventure waiting to be filled. But you need to sit down and think about how you want to tell your story. Because you're working with a video game, you have so many options in terms of storytelling. You can do a full narrative-driven experience. It can be completely environmental storytelling. Are you going to use voice actors? Or are you going to deliver it as if it was written in another language and the player wouldn't be able to understand it anyway? The other thing to keep in mind is that all media is transformative. You usually don't have brand new ideas. It's ideas that have evolved from other ideas. So in saying that, you have to think, what games am I trying to emulate? And what I find helps is you pick 3 games. This is going to be your base reference for describing your game to people who might be unfamiliar with the concept. It also gives players a good frame of reference on whether or not they'd enjoy your game. Because I hate to say it, you're never going to make a game that everybody's going to enjoy. My game is based loosely on the Fable series, Pokemon, and the Soulsborne series. So the next thing you have to do is figure out how to Frankenstein all 3 of those ideas together. See, at least 2 of those games follow the what I would call the Zelda-based 3D game structure of a third-person character and action-based combat. And because we have action-based combat, we need our controls to be responsive. And we need to be able to give the player the ability to use everything at their disposal so as to not interrupt the flow of combat. So the first thing I typically do is I draft up a control scheme. This just kind of gives me an idea of how I might allow the player to interact with whatever tools I may be throwing at him. The next thing I would highly recommend is figuring out how you're going to start your game. Unlike movies and video editing, game editing is very difficult and it's transformative, meaning that when you build things, you're building things on top of other things. And it's good to get your structure and not have to rework things later on down the line. So by that I mean, if you're going to have armor, figure out how many armor slots you're going to have. When you're creating an asset that needs to be programmed or needs to be animated in a specific way, it's important to think about that beforehand. And then obviously if you're building an RPG, you've got a character creation system, which I'm gonna try to explain. It's an incredibly complicated process, and it requires you to have knowledge of the inner workings of a lot of complicated systems. But I'll do my best, and I can't promise that. I know I've already made some mistakes, but some mistakes I'm just gonna live with, because I really don't want to have to rework it. And then, how are you going to create your starting sequence? Because are you going to have classes? Are you going to allow players to start in different locations? For me, I felt it was best to build one location, a small inside map, or dungeon, basically, where the player would then start and be given their call to action based on the starting role that they picked during the character creation. My hope is to give players different experiences as they start their journey. I want the player to be able to choose from at least a few different weapons. I want them to be able to customize the way they look. I want to create a spell system that's a combination of Monster Hunter's wheel system and Outward's rune spell system. And I want to utilize a system similar to Digimon World's active pet battling system. I definitely love running around on my horse in Elden Ring, but I think it would be better if I could capture Pokemon that I could then mount. My thought of it would be implementing it more like Monster Hunter, but the monsters grow, and I want to find a way to do it without having a HUD. I mean, obviously there's going to be UI elements. I found games like Spyro and Dead Space where they position elements of the player's HUD on the character as opposed to positioning it on a graphical user interface to be more cinematically enjoyable. That being said, we've got a lot of work ahead of us, so stick with me. I'm gonna do my best. I don't work for any large game company, so I make my money with a full-time job repairing appliances. Ultimately, the goal is to release a demo using the Unreal 4 engine and move on to building the open world within the Unreal 5 engine. If any of that sounds interesting to you, I implore you to subscribe. I'm really trying to build an audience and get feedback while I build this project. And thank you for watching.